My chest felt tight as if someone had squeezed all the air from my lungs. I stared in disbelief at my phone screen, watching my mother, Elizabeth Hudson, sitting confidently at our worn oak dining table, holding a glass of the very Chardonnay I'd purchased just last week, oblivious that every harsh word was being broadcasted live to an audience of strangers online. Elizabeth waved her hand dismissively, her voice dripping with casual disdain. Honestly, she scoffed, rolling her eyes theatrically. Marie acts like drifting between jobs makes her some kind of success story. First, she couldn't handle nursing school, then it was real estate, and now this caregiver thing. It's like watching her flounder through life with no clue. My phone buzzed again. Abby Raymond, my teenage cousin who'd recently gained a passionate following for their live streams about social justice, had texted earlier, "Marie, I'm so sorry. You need to see this." Abby had included a direct link to their latest broadcast. I'd been at a seminar for caregivers in Providence, planning my return to nursing school, and was just settling into a hotel room when their message had shattered my quiet evening. I'm Marie Rosalind. At 32, my life felt fragmented between careers, each one an attempt to balance personal fulfillment with family obligations. 5 years ago, when my mother was diagnosed with severe rheumatoid arthritis, I quietly took on the role of her caregiver, coordinating medical appointments, managing her complicated insurance claims, and financing treatments out of pocket while juggling exhausting shifts as a caregiver and real estate agent in Boston. Nobody at that family dinner knew I'd drained my savings last year, covering the cost of specialized treatments that her insurance refused to pay. It's honestly pathetic, Elizabeth continued, clearly enjoying the attention from my Uncle David and Professor Mark Weston seated around her. Marie always talked big, dreaming of nursing and changing lives, she mocked, her laughter harsh and bitter. Now she just hops from one mediocre job to another, pretending she's achieving something meaningful. Through Abby's phone, discreetly angled from their lap, I saw clearly how my mother's careless cruelty was embraced with nods and suppressed laughter. The realization made my stomach churn. "Do you remember when she left nursing school?" Elizabeth leaned toward Mark, voice dripping with false sympathy. "She came home sobbing, complaining how overwhelming the coursework was. Now she parades around pretending she's found her calling by babysitting elderly people." The sting was almost unbearable. The reality, hidden beneath my silence, was that I'd postponed my dream of becoming a nurse to support her, financially and emotionally, through her illness. Every paycheck from caregiving and real estate deals had vanished into medical bills, treatments, and her endless prescriptions. "Marie simply doesn't have the resilience," Elizabeth sighed dramatically, reaching casually for her wine glass, the one I'd provided for family dinners in an attempt to keep normalcy intact. "Some people aren't cut out for actual achievement, no matter how much help they're given." The live stream carried on for another agonizing moment before Abby finally turned their camera away, cutting off my mother's performance. I sat frozen on the hotel bed, eyes blurry with tears, the harsh reality seeping deep into my heart. For years, I'd rationalized my mother's criticisms as side effects of her illness or generational misunderstandings, but this wasn't just another careless remark, this was Elizabeth's unfiltered truth. Another message from Abby lit up the screen. "Marie, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize she'd say all that until it was already out there. Should I delete the video?" I stared blankly at Abby's sincere apology for a moment, fingers trembling over the screen. "No," I replied, determination hardening in my chest. "Leave it up. There's something important I need to show you tomorrow when I get home." The drive back from Providence felt unreal, each mile passing in a haze of disbelief and restless anxiety. The rhythm of tires on asphalt echoed my mother's voice, her sharp laughter replaying cruelly in my mind, mocking every effort I'd made to support her. 5 years earlier, life had felt clearer, more promising. At 27, I was thriving in nursing school, deeply committed to making a difference, driven by a passion to help those most in need. But then the unexpected phone call shattered my neatly laid plans. Elizabeth had collapsed at work, rushed to the hospital with a sudden onset of aggressive rheumatoid arthritis. "It's just not fair," she had sobbed from her hospital bed, her frail hand gripping mine with desperate urgency. "How am I supposed to pay for any of this? The insurance won't cover nearly enough." Without hesitation, I'd squeezed her hand gently, reassuringly, though my own fears threatened to overwhelm me. "We'll figure this out together, Mom," I'd promised, believing those words with every fiber of my being. With my father long gone since my teens, it had always been Elizabeth and me navigating life's uncertainties together. Despite her occasional harsh words and criticisms, I had trusted in our shared bond, believing that beneath her sharp tongue lay genuine love. She had sacrificed endlessly during my childhood, taking extra shifts, ensuring every possible opportunity was within my reach. It felt natural, necessary even, that it was now my turn to step forward. Within months, I'd made the agonizing decision to put nursing school on indefinite hold. Real estate and caregiving jobs offered flexible schedules and income stability, enabling me to manage Elizabeth's growing healthcare needs, appointments, therapy sessions, and complex insurance battles. This arrangement, I'd convinced myself, would be temporary, only until her condition improved, until I had enough saved to safely return to my own dreams. But months stretched into years, and temporary became my life. Elizabeth's condition had indeed stabilized, but at an exhausting financial and emotional cost. I became her sole advocate, endlessly negotiating with insurers, researching specialists, and silently shouldering the financial burden of medications and treatments. "You've really grown into a responsible woman," she'd say occasionally, her rare words of praise like precious drops of water in a drought, sustaining me through countless sleepless nights and draining days. As I finally pulled into my driveway, silence filled the car, heavier than usual. Elizabeth believed I was still in Providence, attending workshops on caregiver burnout and career advancement, a trip I'd abruptly ended after Abby's live stream shattered the illusion I'd carefully maintained for years. My phone vibrated, shaking me out of my thoughts. A message from Abby appeared, at the coffee shop on Maple Street. "Ready whenever you are." I closed my eyes briefly, drawing a steadying breath to collect my thoughts. Opening my laptop bag, I withdrew a thick, carefully maintained folder labeled simply Mom Medical. Inside lay meticulous records of every bill I'd paid over the past 5 years, each medication receipt, specialist invoice, insurance premium, and therapy session painstakingly logged. Initially intended only for tax purposes, these pages now felt heavier, transformed into undeniable evidence of years spent quietly sacrificing myself. Feeling a new sense of clarity harden within me, I texted Abby back firmly, "I'll see you there in 15 minutes." The coffee shop hummed with quiet conversations, punctuated by the soft clatter of cups and spoons. My eyes quickly found Abby Raymond seated by the window, their vibrant blue hair illuminated by the morning sunlight streaming in through the glass. Abby's oversized headphones rested around their neck, an ever-present symbol of their active connection to the digital world. When Abby spotted me approaching, their expressive face instantly filled with remorse. "Marie, I'm so sorry," they rushed out anxiously as I sat down across from them. I had no idea Elizabeth would say those awful things. It was just supposed to be a casual family live stream, but then she started talking about you, and it got really intense, Anne. I gently raised a hand, stopping Abby's nervous rambling. "It's not your fault," I assured them quietly, managing a reassuring smile. "Actually, I owe you a huge thank you." Abby's eyebrows knitted together in confusion. "Thank me? For what?" I reached into my bag, pulling out the heavy medical folder and laying it gently on the table between us. Slowly, I flipped it open, exposing the detailed records I'd carefully maintained, payment slips, insurance claims, prescription receipts, and meticulously logged appointments stretching back over the past 5 years. For helping me finally face the truth, I explained softly. "I've covered everything for Elizabeth, her medications, doctor visits, specialist treatments, even the ridiculously high insurance premiums." Abby's eyes widened as they began to leaf through the carefully organized documents, disbelief evident in their expression. "Marie, this must be thousands of dollars." "Over 100,000, actually," I corrected gently, feeling strangely calm as I voiced the amount aloud. I've postponed my dreams, drained my savings, and put my personal life completely on hold because I believed she truly needed me. Anger flickered across Abby's face as they looked back up from the paperwork. And she has the nerve to call you a failure? That's just unbelievably messed up. I nodded slowly, feeling a mixture of relief and quiet sadness at finally acknowledging the reality I'd ignored for so long. All these years, I convinced myself that her harsh words were tough love, a warped way of motivating me. I thought, deep down, she saw how much I was doing. I let out a brief, bitter laugh. Clearly, I was wrong. Abby's gaze softened, their voice cautious but hopeful. So, what happens now? I gathered the papers carefully back into the folder, feeling my decision solidify with each movement. It's over. I've already prepared the documents to remove myself from her financial accounts. No more hidden sacrifices. You're not going to confront her directly? Abby asked, concern evident in their voice. I shook my head, resolute. There's no point. Elizabeth would just brush it off, deny everything, or twist my feelings to make me think I'm overreacting. Pulling out my phone, I opened my banking app, allowing Abby to watch as I navigated swiftly through the familiar screens. I've been setting aside small amounts each month, quietly hoping to eventually return to nursing school. Starting today, that's exactly where this money is going. With a single tap, I transferred the funds that had been earmarked for Elizabeth's upcoming treatments directly into my own savings account. It was a small digital gesture, yet it felt like an irrevocable step toward freedom. Marie, Abby whispered softly, a mixture of awe and concern in their voice, are you absolutely sure? I've never been more certain of anything, I replied firmly, surprised by the newfound steadiness in my voice. 5 years is enough. I'm done being a safety net for someone who refuses to acknowledge me. Reaching back into my bag, I pulled out a neatly folded acceptance letter I'd nearly forgotten about in the chaos of Elizabeth's latest medical demands. I unfolded it carefully, sliding it across the table to Abby. I got accepted back into the nursing program. I was about to defer again because of Elizabeth's upcoming treatments, but that ends now. Classes start this fall, and I'm going to be there. Abby's eyes sparkled with pride as they squeezed my hand reassuringly. Good for you, Marie. And I'll send you the full video from the live stream, just in case you ever need to show the truth to anyone else. As Abby and I said our goodbyes, stepping out into the gentle warmth of the autumn morning, I felt an unfamiliar sensation of relief and clarity washing over me. The heavy burden of obligation I'd carried for so long was finally lifting, replaced by a quiet determination to reclaim my life, piece by piece, decision by decision. For the first time in years, I was finally choosing myself, and surprisingly, it didn't feel selfish. It felt necessary, empowering, and deeply overdue. My hands felt both steady and unfamiliar as I ended yet another call with the insurance representative. Ms. Rosalind, the agent clarified cautiously, as if uncertain I'd understood, if you remove yourself as Elizabeth Hudson's guarantor, her premiums will rise significantly and coverage options may be limited. Are you sure this is your decision? Yes, I affirmed calmly, a strength in my voice I'd long forgotten I had. As of next month, I will no longer assume financial responsibility. Please ensure Ms. Hudson receives official notification directly. 3 days into my newfound determination, the dining table had transformed into a command center of organized chaoses, papers, receipts, insurance documents, all meticulously sorted. Each call, email, and document felt like carefully extracting myself from a tangled web I'd spent years weaving around my mother's health and finances. My phone buzzed incessantly. Elizabeth had been sending increasingly frantic texts since yesterday. I'd intentionally missed her doctor's appointment this morning, knowing it would trigger the confrontation I had been mentally preparing for since Abby's live stream. Marie. Where are you? I've waited for over an hour. The clinic said my insurance card was declined. This is your mess, fix it immediately. I can't believe you're ignoring me. Answer your phone now. Each frantic message solidified my resolve, strengthening my conviction that this was not only necessary, but long overdue. I muted the phone, savoring the rare silence as I returned to dismantling the remnants of a relationship rooted more in obligation than mutual respect. By evening, most financial ties were effectively severed. Sitting at my laptop, I prepared the next critical phase of my plan, an email carefully crafted to explain everything to my extended family. Dear family, after deep reflection, I've decided to cease managing Elizabeth's medical and financial needs. For 5 exhausting years, I've quietly shouldered the financial burden, totaling well over $120,000. This includes all medical treatments, prescriptions, insurance premiums, and specialist appointments. This decision was not made lightly. Moving forward, Elizabeth will require your collective support, should you choose to offer it. I've attached detailed records documenting my contributions, for transparency and to assist you in any future planning. I appreciate your understanding. Sincerely, Marie Rosalind. I attach the carefully prepared spreadsheet listing every payment and appointment, a factual account of my silent years of sacrifice, evidence I never imagined needing until now. As I prepared to send the email, the doorbell's urgent chime startled me from my focus. Through the peephole, Elizabeth stood on my porch, her expression twisted into anger and disbelief. My heart quickened, but I stepped back, making no move to open the door. Marie, I know you're inside. Elizabeth's voice, muffled but fierce, pierced through the quiet house. Open this door immediately. I stood rooted, the stillness empowering rather than frightening. Watching her shadow beneath the door, I steadied my breathing. You've ignored all my calls. My medication was refused at the pharmacy. What on earth are you trying to do to me? Gathering my courage, I spoke clearly and firmly through the closed door, feeling the weight of every suppressed truth. I won't be handling this anymore, Elizabeth. You'll receive information from the insurance company soon. I'd suggest you pay close attention. There was a pause, brief and uncertain, before her voice exploded in fury. Is this really about money, Marie? After everything I've done for you? The bitter irony almost made me laugh. No, I said steadily. It's about respect, something I've never genuinely received from you. I've finally heard what you truly think about me, and I'm choosing not to live that way anymore. Another stunned silence followed, then her voice shifted to indignation. How dare you talk to your own mother like this? After all my sacrifices? Goodbye, Elizabeth, I cut her off, feeling a quiet, powerful strength in those simple words. Please don't come here again. I stepped away as her protests continued, growing louder but less relevant with every step I took toward my laptop, returning to finish what I'd started. Each action felt purposeful, each decision mine alone. Finally free of the burden I'd carried so long, I knew deep in my heart that reclaiming my own life was worth whatever consequences might come next. The repercussions came swiftly, echoing loudly through digital notifications and muted phone calls. Within moments of sending the carefully worded email, my phone erupted with messages. Mark Weston, the family intellectual I'd expected more understanding from, expressed deep disappointment in my apparent disregard for family obligations. David Reynolds, ever the mediator, urged me to reconsider my drastic decision. My phone screen flashed relentlessly with judgments from relatives, many of whom had never taken a moment to understand my sacrifices or burdens. Only Abby and, surprisingly, Grace Elliott reached out with genuine compassion. Grace's message was brief but supportive. Marie, it takes strength to establish boundaries. I'm proud of you, call me anytime. Quietly and deliberately, I blocked Elizabeth's number first, silencing the steady stream of accusations and guilt-laden pleas. Gradually, the muted tones of judgment faded as I withdrew from conversations with those who had not cared enough to understand the truth. In the resulting stillness, I discovered an unfamiliar yet soothing peace. 3 days later, a calm but eager anticipation filled me as I sat in the admissions office of Boston City Nursing School, carefully reviewing my paperwork for the upcoming fall semester. You've been away from nursing studies for quite some time, the advisor remarked gently, flipping through my previous academic records. Your grades are strong, Marie, but we'll need you to complete a refresher exam to ensure you're prepared for the accelerated curriculum. Of course, I replied, a small but confident smile spreading across my face. I've already begun revisiting my textbooks. Stepping back onto campus afterward, I breathed deeply, savoring the gentle breeze rustling through autumn leaves. An unfamiliar yet comforting sense of belonging settled over me. This was exactly where I belonged, not caught in the shadows of someone else's demands, but fully embracing a future I'd carved out for myself. My caregiving duties would need adjustments to accommodate my studies, but plans were already forming clearly in my mind. I'd continue with fewer clients, take on high-value assignments, and consider hiring part-time administrative support. It would be a delicate balance, but without Elizabeth's relentless medical bills draining my accounts, it was entirely manageable. At home, I found a formal-looking letter mistakenly delivered to my address, Elizabeth's name prominently printed on the envelope. The insurance company had detailed the substantial increase in premiums now that I had withdrawn my financial guarantee. I anticipated guilt, bracing for it like a wave, yet none came. Instead, I felt a quiet satisfaction, a validation of my right to reclaim control over my own life. My phone rang, breaking through my thoughts. Marie? Abby's voice came through urgently. Have you checked the family group chat? I sighed softly, unsurprised. I left that conversation days ago. What's going on? Abby's voice tightened with frustration. Elizabeth is telling everyone you've had some kind of breakdown. She's saying your caregiving job was falling apart, and you're taking out your frustrations by cutting her off. She's completely twisting the narrative. I shook my head calmly, a resigned smile tugging at my lips. It's her classic move, deflect and manipulate. But that's not all, Abby hesitated, clearly troubled. Elizabeth didn't realize I was still in the chat. She convinced Mark to let her move in temporarily until she gets her health sorted out. A bitter chuckle escaped my lips. Of course she did. Elizabeth's always been skilled at finding someone else to take responsibility. After hanging up, I glanced down at my laptop, Abby's livestream video waiting quietly on my desktop, the stark, undeniable proof of my mother's betrayal. My finger hovered over the play button, considering its power. This video could vindicate me, silencing Elizabeth's carefully curated narrative. Yet, did I really need validation from family members who couldn't even be bothered to hear my side? Those willing to accept her distorted version of reality were unlikely to be swayed by mere evidence. I gently closed the laptop, leaving the video untouched. I had what I needed if it ever became necessary, but for now, my future was far more pressing than old family battles. Nursing school awaited me, my placement exam scheduled, my textbooks neatly stacked on the table beside me. For the first time in years, my priorities were clear. I was investing energy in my dreams, not managing someone else's chaos. Glancing once more at the misplaced insurance letter, I calmly slipped it into a fresh envelope, addressing it directly to Elizabeth's new residence. Adding a simple note, I kept my tone neutral, devoid of bitterness or triumph. This arrived at my address by mistake. Please review it carefully. No signatures, no emotion, just clarity. As I dropped the envelope into the mailbox outside, I felt another subtle shift, another piece of the burden I'd carried for too long gently fall away. The consequences now belonged solely to Elizabeth, freeing me finally to walk forward into a life built on my own terms. The following 2 weeks passed in a steady rhythm of quiet resolve. My days filled quickly, juggling caregiving shifts, client consultations, and intense study sessions as I prepared diligently for my nursing placement exam. Each successful practice test brought a new sense of confidence, reinforcing the belief that I was finally back on the right track. Then, without warning, came the confrontation I'd been anticipating yet hoping to avoid. I had just finished an early shift at a caregiving facility near Brookline when I saw them clearly in my rearview mirror, Elizabeth and Mark Weston standing awkwardly beside her car in the parking lot, obviously waiting for me. A wave of tension surged through me, my initial instinct urging me to drive away, to escape this moment entirely. But they'd already spotted me. Running would accomplish nothing but delay the inevitable. Taking a steadying breath, I stepped out of the car, bracing myself. Marie, Elizabeth's voice was deceptively soft, laden with artificial sweetness. We really need to talk. Up close, the visible strain on her face was pronounced, her normally meticulous appearance noticeably disheveled. She leaned heavily on her cane, an object she typically reserved for dramatic effect during arguments, amplifying her condition to gain sympathy. I don't have anything left to say, I replied calmly, my grip tightening on my keys, anchoring myself in a quiet resolve. Mark Weston took a hesitant step forward, his voice cautious yet slightly judgmental. Marie, your mother's medical expenses have drastically increased. She's unable to see her specialists regularly, and she says her medications have become unaffordable. Surely this isn't your intention. I paused, carefully choosing my words, ensuring my voice remained steady and unwavering. My intention was never to abandon Elizabeth. All I ever wanted was basic respect and appreciation, recognition for the years of support I quietly provided. Instead, I received ridicule and cruelty behind my back. Elizabeth's eyes widened, her voice sharp with panic. What are you talking about? I looked directly at her, my voice firm but measured. Abby's live stream from the family dinner. I heard every single word, Elizabeth. You made it abundantly clear exactly what you think of me. A flicker of panic crossed her features before anger took its place, defensive and dismissive. You're taking things completely out of context. I was simply frustrated, venting like everyone does sometimes. Mark looked perplexed, turning uncertainly toward Elizabeth. Video? Elizabeth, what's this about? A bitter irony tugged at the corner of my mouth. She hadn't even told her closest ally about the live stream, clearly hoping I'd remain ignorant of her public betrayal. You can show Mark the video yourself, I continued steadily, meeting her gaze unflinchingly. Or don't. It doesn't matter anymore. I've made my decision. Elizabeth shifted tactics instantly, desperation cracking her voice. Marie, I'm your mother. After everything I've given you, how could you abandon me when I'm at my most vulnerable? Something deep within me, a quiet strength built from years of suppressed emotions, surged forward. Everything you've done for me? I repeated incredulously, my voice growing clearer with each word. Let me tell you exactly what I've done for you, Elizabeth. I've postponed my dreams, sacrificed over $100,000, navigated every medical crisis, battled insurance companies, and managed your care tirelessly. And in return, you've mocked me, belittled my accomplishments, and called my entire career worthless. My hands trembled slightly, but my voice remained firm and controlled. I've already shared detailed proof with our family, every payment, appointment, sacrifice. So please don't stand here and pretend I'm somehow the villain. Mark glanced sharply at Elizabeth, the seeds of doubt clearly taking root. Elizabeth, he asked slowly, cautiously, what exactly did you say on this video? She ignored him entirely, focusing her desperation solely on me. Marie, I'm sorry if you were hurt, but this reaction, this abandonment, is too extreme. My health is deteriorating. I'm fully aware of your condition, I responded evenly. I've managed it single-handedly for 5 years. Now it's someone else's turn. I turned toward Mark, my voice gently probing. You're letting Elizabeth stay with you now, correct? Has she asked you for money yet? How many doctor's appointments have you driven her to, or prescriptions filled? Mark's silence answered more eloquently than any words could have. Exactly, I said calmly, opening my car door and slipping inside. I genuinely wish you both well, but I'm finished being manipulated. This isn't over. Elizabeth shouted after me, her voice breaking with frustration. Family doesn't abandon family. Pausing briefly, I met her gaze firmly. You're right, Elizabeth. Real family doesn't abandon each other. But they also don't exploit or undermine each other. Maybe you should ask yourself who truly abandoned whom first. I drove away slowly, watching through the mirror as Elizabeth's frantic gestures turned sharply toward Mark, clearly blaming him for not intervening enough. It was painfully familiar, yet oddly distant now, like watching a movie I'd finally stopped starring in. As I returned home, already mentally preparing for tomorrow's nursing exam, I found the guilt I'd expected entirely absent. In its place was a profound, liberating sense of freedom I'd forgotten was possible. I had finally chosen myself, and as the miles stretched between my old obligations and new dreams, I realized I'd never felt more at peace. The 3 months since reclaiming my independence had passed swiftly, marked by long hours of studying, caregiving assignments, and meticulous preparation for my nursing program. I'd hired a capable assistant named Kylie, a college student whose organizational skills far exceeded my expectations, allowing me to manage a more sustainable workload without compromising my ambitions. The transition wasn't without challenges. There were nights I questioned my decisions, exhausted evenings filled with flashcards and practice tests, but each small triumph reminded me I was on the right path. The oppressive burden I'd carried for years had finally dissolved, replaced by a sense of agency I'd nearly forgotten existed. Meanwhile, my relationship with the family had settled into an uneasy truce. Mark Weston, shaken by Elizabeth's behavior during our last confrontation, had reached out quietly afterward. Over coffee, he'd expressed genuine regret. "Marie, Elizabeth painted you as uncaring and self-centered. I should have known better, asked more questions." "It's all right, Mark," I'd replied sincerely, grateful for the acknowledgement. Elizabeth has always had a talent for shaping perceptions. When I received an unexpected invitation to the Boston Caregiver Association's annual awards ceremony, a gathering I'd previously overlooked, I was initially hesitant. But Eric Bennett, a prominent advocate for diversity and inclusion within the caregiving community, had nominated me for the Resilient Caregiver Award, recognizing those who maintained exceptional professionalism despite personal adversity. "You've balanced caregiving, real estate, and nursing school preparations seamlessly," Eric had insisted warmly. "Your resilience deserves acknowledgement." The ceremony took place in an elegant hotel ballroom, filled with professionals whose work embodied compassion and strength. Wearing a simple navy dress I'd chosen especially for this evening, my first indulgence for myself in years, I felt unexpectedly at ease among the attendees, finally feeling worthy of celebration. Midway through chatting with Eric about advancements in patient care strategies, my phone buzzed insistently. Initially ignoring it to remain present, I eventually glanced down. 5 missed calls from an unfamiliar number and a single urgent text from Abby. "It's Abby," using David's phone. "Urgent, please call." A knot tightened painfully in my stomach as I quietly stepped into a hallway to return the call. "Abby, what's happened?" Their voice trembled slightly. "Marie, I'm so sorry to interrupt your night, but I'm at the hospital with Elizabeth. She had a fall, possibly related to complications from her new medication. She's stable but distressed and asking specifically for you." I paused, allowing my breathing to steady, bracing for the familiar pang of guilt. To my surprise, the feeling arrived muted and manageable, no longer overwhelming. "Is she okay?" I asked calmly, my voice betraying no panic. "Stable, but they'll keep her overnight for observation," Abby reassured gently. "I didn't want to disrupt your evening, but David insisted I call." A rustling sound followed, and David Reynolds' cautious voice replaced Abby's. "Marie, it's David. The doctors have questions about Elizabeth's medical history, and honestly, we're not fully prepared to answer." Glancing back toward the ballroom, where attendees were beginning to settle into their seats, I weighed the importance of this night against the obligation tugging at my heart. "I understand," I responded firmly, making my decision clear. "I'm at a professional event right now, but I can stop by afterward." David's tone sharpened slightly, his frustration evident. "Marie, this is your mother. Surely whatever event you're attending can wait." A past version of myself would have immediately dropped everything, racing across town without hesitation. Yet something fundamental within me had changed, shifting the balance irrevocably towards self-respect. "I'll be there in a couple of hours," I repeated gently but firmly. Please reassure the doctors I'll address their questions then. And David, thank you for stepping in to help. Hanging up, I caught my reflection in a nearby mirror, noting the quiet confidence and clarity now present in my expression. For the first time, I truly recognized the woman staring back. And this year's Resilient Caregiver Award goes to Marie-Rosalind. Warm applause filled the room as I returned, momentarily frozen in surprise before Eric gently urged me forward, pride evident in his smile. Accepting the award felt symbolic, a tangible acknowledgement of the resilience I'd painstakingly cultivated through years of hidden sacrifice. Thank you, I began sincerely, standing before the gathered audience of peers and mentors. This recognition means more than you can imagine. My journey has been complicated, balancing caregiving, my career, and nursing aspirations. The path was not straightforward, often it was overwhelming, but resilience isn't about never faltering, it's about continuing forward despite those struggles. The room quieted respectfully as I continued. I've learned that true caregiving demands compassion, not just toward those we support, but toward ourselves. I'm finally embracing that truth, and this award affirms the choice to reclaim my own life, my career, and my dreams. Returning to my seat, applause filled the room, warm and genuine. My colleagues offered heartfelt congratulations, and a deep sense of validation settled within me. After the ceremony ended, I gathered my things, trophy carefully tucked into my bag, and made my way calmly to my car, ready to face Elizabeth at the hospital. The confidence I'd found tonight would carry me forward, steadying me for whatever awaited next. My path was now clear, and for the first time in years, I felt entirely unburdened. Yes, she's stable, but they're keeping her overnight for observation, Abby's voice held an apologetic softness. I really didn't want to interrupt your event, but David insisted. A moment later, muffled sounds preceded David Reynolds' careful voice. Marie, it's David. I understand there's tension, but Elizabeth needs you here. The doctors have questions about her medical history that neither Abby nor I can fully address. As his words reached me, I noticed the ballroom attendees beginning to move toward their seats, anticipation building for the awards ceremony I'd unexpectedly found myself at the center of. I understand, I replied calmly, making a clear, deliberate choice. But I'm attending an important professional event right now. I can arrive at the hospital in about 2 hours. Marie, David's voice grew firm, tinged with urgency. This is your mother. Surely whatever you're doing can wait. An earlier version of myself would have instantly abandoned my own priorities, rushing to Elizabeth's side without question. But that person had changed, evolved into someone stronger, someone who understood the importance of boundaries. I'll be there when I'm finished here, I reaffirmed firmly yet kindly. Please inform the doctors I'll be available shortly. And David, thank you for stepping in. I truly appreciate it. Ending the call, I took a deep, steadying breath, catching my reflection in an ornate mirror nearby. The woman looking back at me stood confidently, shoulders set, chin lifted, eyes clear with purpose. For the first time in years, I truly recognized myself. And the recipient of this year's Resilient Caregiver Award is Marie-Rosalind. The announcement broke my thoughts, applause erupting around me. For an instant, surprise held me immobile, disbelief fluttering gently in my chest until Eric Bennett, smiling warmly, nudged me gently toward the stage. The award, heavy and reassuring in my hands, symbolized far more than professional acknowledgement. It was validation, recognition of a long journey defined by hidden sacrifice and quiet endurance. Thank you, I began sincerely, my voice surprisingly steady despite my nerves. This recognition touches me deeply. Balancing caregiving responsibilities, a career in real estate, and returning to nursing school has been challenging beyond words. There were countless moments I wasn't sure I'd make it through. Pausing briefly, my mind flashed back to late nights spent poring over Elizabeth's medical treatments, mornings spent navigating appointments and crises before even beginning my workday. But caregiving teaches resilience, I continued, finding strength in the attentive silence around me. It teaches us to adapt, overcome, and support not only others but also ourselves. Those lessons guided me through difficult times and eventually led me back to my original passion, nursing. Murmurs of approval rippled through the crowd. I'm now embracing my dreams alongside my caregiving work, and this award symbolizes not only professional resilience but personal reinvention. Thank you all for recognizing this journey. Warm applause enveloped me as I stepped down from the stage, colleagues and mentors extending heartfelt congratulations. Eric's proud smile mirrored my own quiet joy. By the time the event concluded, my phone showed several additional missed calls from David and a reassuring text from Abby, Elizabeth's stable. Don't rush. Collecting my belongings, carefully placing the trophy in my bag, I headed for my car. The short drive to the hospital gave me space to mentally prepare for Elizabeth's inevitable accusations, yet I felt no dread, only calm certainty. I was finally standing firmly in my truth, free from guilt, reclaiming my own life step by confident step. When I stepped into the softly lit hospital room, I found Elizabeth sitting upright in bed, appearing surprisingly composed for someone who had just suffered a serious medical event. David Reynolds occupied a visitor's chair by her bedside, his expression unreadable, while Abby hovered uncertainly near the window, offering me an apologetic glance as I entered. "Well, look who finally decided to show up," Elizabeth remarked icily, her eyes narrowing sharply as they locked onto mine. "I'm honored you found time in your busy schedule." I placed my bag gently down, the edge of my newly awarded trophy briefly visible beneath the zipper. "Hello, Elizabeth. I came as soon as my ceremony ended. How are you feeling now? How do you think?" Elizabeth snapped bitterly. I could have seriously injured myself, and you chose attending some meaningless party over me." David cleared his throat uncomfortably, breaking the tense silence. "The doctors said it was likely a reaction to her adjusted medication. They've already modified the dose, and she should be cleared to leave tomorrow." I nodded calmly, maintaining my composure. "That's good to hear. I'm relieved it wasn't something more severe." My measured response only seemed to inflame Elizabeth's anger further. Her voice rose sharply, edged with accusation. "None of this would have happened if you hadn't abandoned me. My new insurance coverage is a joke, I can't afford half my medications, and these new doctors don't understand my condition like my specialists did." "I'm genuinely sorry you're going through that," I replied softly, sincere despite her hostility. Transitioning to new care providers must be very challenging. Elizabeth's face twisted in frustration at my calm demeanor. "Is that really all you have to say after everything you've put me through?" My eyes briefly met Abby's, their expression full of quiet encouragement, reinforcing the strength I'd been steadily building. "Elizabeth," I began gently but firmly, "for 5 years, I dedicated my life entirely to your care, financially, emotionally, practically. I sacrificed personal dreams, relationships, and countless opportunities because I believed you needed my help. Yet, behind my back, you openly mocked my efforts, dismissing my career and ridiculing my ambitions." David's eyes widened slightly in confusion. "Marie, what are you talking about?" Abby stepped forward quietly, their voice steady but compassionate. "The live stream, David, the one Elizabeth didn't tell you about. She said some incredibly harsh things about Marie." Elizabeth visibly paled, her eyes darting nervously between us. "That was nothing. Marie is exaggerating everything to justify her own selfishness." Without speaking, I carefully reached into my bag, lifting out the crystal trophy I'd received earlier that evening. Placing it deliberately on the bedside table, the engraved words caught the muted hospital lighting clearly: "Resilient Caregiver Award, Marie Rosalind." "I received this award tonight," I explained softly to David, who stared thoughtfully from the trophy to Elizabeth's tense expression. "It recognizes overcoming significant personal and professional obstacles. Those obstacles included providing complete financial and medical support for Elizabeth, despite the ongoing dismissal and ridicule of my efforts." For a moment, no one spoke. Elizabeth, uncharacteristically silent, fixed her gaze upon the glittering trophy, a tangible symbol of my accomplishments, impossible to diminish or dismiss. "I didn't come here to argue," I continued quietly, voice resolute. I came because you needed important medical history provided, and I genuinely wanted to ensure your health was stable. I never wished you harm, Elizabeth, I still don't. But I simply can't keep sacrificing my well-being for someone incapable of recognizing or respecting those sacrifices. The quiet intensity of the moment settled over the room. Elizabeth, for perhaps the first time, had no ready manipulation, no sharp retort at hand. She simply stared at the trophy, silent acknowledgement of the reality she'd worked so hard to deny. Finally, I broke the heavy silence, picking up my bag once more. I should go. I have an early class tomorrow morning. Abby, would you like a ride home? Abby nodded, stepping quickly toward me. David, meanwhile, gazed at Elizabeth thoughtfully, clearly processing new and uncomfortable truths. As we left the room together, David's quiet questioning filled the space I'd just vacated, the conversation Elizabeth had always avoided finally occurring without my involvement. Stepping into the hallway, I felt a quiet relief, an unfamiliar but comforting sense of closure. This time, I wasn't the one striving to be heard, fighting to justify my choices. For the first time, I was walking away unburdened, truly free, and finally understood. 3 months later, I stood confidently beside the hospital bed, carefully setting up the 4 under my nursing instructor's watchful gaze. My hands moved steadily, instinctively recalling skills I'd worried had long been forgotten. Excellent job, Rosalind, my instructor remarked warmly, admiration clear in her voice. Your clinical abilities have improved significantly these past few months. Securing the 4 line with practiced ease, I felt genuine satisfaction bloom within me. Thank you. It finally feels like I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. After finishing my shift at the teaching hospital, I stepped outside, breathing in deeply as evening air refreshed my senses. Checking my phone, I saw a message from Abby waiting for me, Marie. Your interview's going viral, 20K views already. I laughed softly in disbelief. Just last week, I'd been interviewed by a local healthcare journal interested in career changers who return to nursing later in life. When asked how my caregiving and real estate experiences shaped my approach, I'd answered thoughtfully. Both fields demand compassion, clear communication, meticulous attention to detail, and supporting individuals through significant life transitions. Most importantly, each taught me how crucial healthy boundaries are, something every caregiver needs to understand. Driving home, my phone rang, an unfamiliar number appearing on the screen. I answered cautiously, the voice on the other end instantly familiar. Marie, it's David Reynolds, he said gently. Do you have a minute? My grip on the steering wheel tightened slightly, anticipating another difficult conversation. Yes, David, what's going on? I saw your interview, he continued warmly, surprising me with his tone. You were wonderful. Thoughtful, poised, inspiring. Thank you, I replied, genuinely moved by his sincerity. There was a brief pause before he spoke again, quieter now. Elizabeth saw it too. A momentary tension returned, anticipation of another harsh critique. But David's voice remained gentle. She didn't say much, but seeing you there, in your nursing uniform, speaking confidently, it finally seemed to resonate with her. I think she realized you're truly moving forward. I parked carefully in my driveway, processing his words silently, emotion welling unexpectedly in my throat. I'm incredibly proud of you, Marie, David added softly. And I'm sorry I didn't understand what you were going through sooner. Tears prickled at my eyes, gratitude mingling with relief. Thank you, David. That truly means a lot. After the call ended, I sat quietly for a moment, absorbing how profoundly my life had shifted in less than a year. The crystal caregiving trophy stood prominently on my living room shelf, beside my nursing textbooks, a tangible connection between the struggles I'd overcome and the dreams I was finally fulfilling. Stepping into my home, a gentle peace enveloped me. The nursing journals neatly stacked on my coffee table represented both commitment and freedom. Tonight I'd study for an upcoming exam, maybe call Abby later to share a laugh. Tomorrow held a caregiving shift and a client meeting between classes, each aspect carefully balanced, each choice deliberate, entirely mine. David's unexpected call was a comforting reminder that reconciliation might someday be possible, not out of obligation, but mutual respect. Yet my happiness no longer hinged on Elizabeth's approval or understanding. I'd finally reclaimed my path, my worth, and my purpose. And that, I knew deeply, was the most powerful realization of all.